Welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné, and these are the top stories from across the continent. Russia says it will stop recruiting Kenyan nationals. The announcement follows talks in Moscow between the Russian and Kenyan foreign ministers. More than 1,000 Kenyans have been recruited, according to the country's intelligence services. Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine says he has left the country because he fears for his life following January's election. He claims that it was rigged in favor of Ugandan's President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986. A once every 30 years event when Ramadan and Lent overlap. And in Senegal, this holy period has been highlighting how the country's religious population live together peacefully. After an outcry over the recruitment, sometimes forced, of Kenyan men to fight alongside Russian forces in Ukraine, Moscow says it will stop recruiting Kenyan nationals. The announcement follows talks in Moscow on Monday between the Russian and Kenyan foreign ministers. More details from our correspondent in Nairobi, Bastien Renouille.
At the press conference, Musalia Mudavadi and Sergei Lavrov tried to ease the tensions that have built up during the past few months.
I want to make it clear that we have now agreed that Kenyans shall not be enlisted through the Department of Defense or Ministry of Defense. Yeah, they'll no longer be eligible for enlisting in the special operations, and we want to appreciate that.
In the media, on social networks, many Kenyan families have spoken to express the difficulties that their loved ones are facing on the front line in Ukraine after joining, willingly or not, the Russian military. According to a report from Kenyan intelligence services that was presented to Parliament in February, more than 1,000 Kenyan men have already joined the Russian military. This information caused a national outcry here. That's why Musalia Mudavadi announced that he would go to Russia to find an official solution to this issue. During the meeting, Lavrov spoke about Kenyan recruits for the first time. He did not deny their presence, but said that Kenyan citizens had voluntarily signed contracts to fight alongside the Russian army. And he added that Russia had nothing to be blamed for. And that I can tell you that this statement has angered many families here in Kenya who believe that Russia is responsible for the deaths of their loved ones. On the Kenyan side, there were no additional comments to this statement, even though Kenya was very vocal about it during the past few weeks. That's probably because the Kenyan government wants to keep good relations with Russia, especially because the two sides also discussed developing new economic and energy partnerships during the meeting.
Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine has left the country after 2 months in hiding, though he has not yet disclosed his location. In a video posted on social media, he said he feared for his life and repeated his claim that the election had been rigged in favor of Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986. Let's listen to Bobi Wine.
It's laughable that for almost 2 months, the entire security apparatus of Uganda has invested billions of taxpayers' money to search for me everywhere, but they failed to get me. Why? Because the people have protected me.
And while there has been no official reaction from the government or the military so far, our correspondent Aurore Bayou takes a closer look at what this means for the country.
In a video message to his base, Weinstein was reassuring. He didn't frame this as an escape, but as a temporary, calculated move. He told his supporters that he is, quote, taking the struggle to the international stage. In Kampala, the streets have remained remarkably quiet. Some supporters feel a sense of abandonment, wondering if the movement has lost its street heat, but for others, it's a relief. They've seen him detained and tortured before. For them, his safety is paramount. For the National Unity Platform, Bobi Wine's party, this is a moment of intense transition. Wine has announced that Lina Zedriga will serve as acting president in his absence by leaving Zedriga in charge, a lawyer and peace-building expert who was only recently released from prison on charges of inciting violence. The party is attempting to avoid being decapitated by the regime. However, this strategy carries a major risk. The movement's power has always been deeply tied to Bobi Wine's personal charisma.
And in other news, in brief, and in Kenya, with a planned demolition that went wrong, at least 4 people were killed and another 4 injured when a building collapsed in Nairobi. Rescue workers from the Kenyan army and other institutions were working to find any people trapped under the rubble. It's still not clear what happened during the demolition that led to the casualties. Several explosions rocked the city of Maiduguri on Monday evening, just hours after an overnight attack on a military post. Local officials say blasts hit a market and the University of Maiduguri teaching hospital, while another explosion was reported near the city's post office. Emergency services are still assessing the situation, and officials say it is not yet clear whether there are casualties. The northeastern city has long been at the center of Nigeria's fight against jihadist insurgents. The presidents of Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone are meeting in Conakry for talks aimed at easing growing border tensions between the 3 West African neighbors. The summit, led by Guinea's military ruler Mamadi Doumbouya, comes just a day after Guinean troops were deployed to the frontier with Liberia. Liberian President Joseph Boakai and Sierra Leone's leader Julius Maada Bio are expected to attend the closed-door meeting, with Ivory Coast joining as a witness country. The 4 nations are members of the Mano River Union, a regional bloc focused on trade, development, and security cooperation. Officials say the talks aim to defuse tensions after recent border incidents between the country's security forces. In Sudan, the ongoing conflict has seen a rapid rise in deforestation and illegal logging. South of Khartoum, a once verdant acacia forest has been almost entirely decimated since the start of the war. Laurent Bersecher has more.
They used to stretch as far as the eye could see throughout Sudan's desertic landscapes. But today, these massive acacia forests have all but disappeared. South of Khartoum, where a 1,500-acre natural reserve once stood, only a few amputated stumps remain after nearly 3 years of war.
The war has had a significant impact on forests, particularly the acacia forest near Khartoum, which has witnessed excessive logging.
Faced with rising unemployment and a shattered wartime economy, many Sudanese have begun chopping down century-old trees to turn them into charcoal. This as Sudanese authorities remain embroiled in a bloody conflict against the RSF, hindering their ability to halt, control, or sanction this rise in illegal logging. The looming environmental disaster could also have repercussions on the capital and increase its vulnerability to floods.
If the Nile breaks its banks and floodwater arrives in large quantities without anything to mitigate its impact, it will affect the whole area because the forest used to act as a barrier against flooding.
Yet for many Sudanese, logging remains the only way to earn a living. Every day, dozens of people scour the wasteland south of Khartoum in search of a few logs and branches, steadily ignoring the signs alerting them to the presence of landmines.
Now to this once every 30 years event, when Ramadan and Lent overlap, and in Senegal, this holy period has been highlighting how the country's religious population live together peacefully. The country has a strong tradition of religious coexistence between Muslims and Christians. And on the island of Fadiouf, about 120 kilometers south of Dakar, it's not unusual for members of the same family to follow different religions. The town even has one of the few mixed cemeteries in the country. Our team in Senegal went there to find out more.
It's soon time to break the fast for Mass. in the family courtyard on Fadouth Island, southeast of Dhaka. Mas is Muslim, like his father, but he grew up in his mother's Catholic family. This year, everyone has fasted together. They say two religions in the same home have never caused tension in the family.
I practice my religion and they practice theirs. They even encourage me to go to the mosque on Fridays. This time of fasting with my Catholic family, while I'm Muslim, is really wonderful.
This harmony is part of everyday life on the island. At Friday's prayer at the mosque, the sermon focuses on tolerance.
It was said, the fasting of Ramadan was established for you Muslims, just as fasting was established for the religions that came before you. God isn't just for one community, God isn't just for one person, God is for everyone.
A few streets away, Catholic community members gather for the Stations of the Cross, as Lent also brings a long period of reflection.
This time of Lent, this time of Ramadan, is a perfect reminder to stop, let go of our selfishness, our personal interests, and try to fill ourselves with what really matters. And I believe what really matters is love.
For the village chief, this harmony comes from strong family bonds.
We used to be a very small family. Religion came in later. Religion only strengthened the relationships we already had. What we found here, we don't have the right to destroy.
The village is home to one of the few mixed cemeteries in the country, where Muslims and Christians are laid to rest side by side.
Living together peacefully, what better way to end this edition of Eye on Africa? Thank you for watching.